My friend Andy got in touch with me the other day saying he wants to start learning some Chinese. It's quite confusing when you start, even if you've been doing it for a while and not making any progress. So this is what I'd do if I was starting from the top. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. My name's Matt and normally this is a channel about Chinese martial arts. I already did a video about why you should learn Chinese, which I'll link up there. But my friend Andy, like I say, got in touch and wanted to know about how to learn Chinese, where to start, and since I've got a bit of experience in that, I thought I'd try and help him out. If you're interested in learning Chinese as well, obviously this is the place to be. Right, so I've got my setup here. Briefly to put this in context, I'll just run through my journey with learning Chinese. So I do Chinese martial arts, we can say Kung Fu, that's easier. Been doing that for a little while. Started doing these trips to China and thought it'd be cool to learn some Chinese. And I was wading through the land of being a beginner for genuinely years. You know, it's one of those things of, oh, I'm still learning, yeah, still learning. So you never stop, but actually I hadn't made a huge amount of progress. And at some point you have to get out of that beginner stage, and that can be quite difficult if you're just staring at textbooks forever. So it took me a while, and I tried various things, all the apps, everything you can think of, and then found something that works. So if this works for you, that'd be awesome, because then you can make some progress. And it's the coolest thing, being able to just chat with someone in Chinese, someone who has completely different media outlets, someone who's got a different view on the world, different cultural history, and just talk about normal things and just understand a different viewpoint. It's just the most amazing thing. Learning Chinese gives you more colour to your life. And life is short, so we have to add as much colour as we can. Right, so let's have a little run through. There's three things first of all. This doesn't sound like language learning tips or language learning hacks, but actually these are the most important things, so bear with me for this. Firstly, foremost, it's a bit of a given, and you probably know it anyway, motivation. The long, hard slog of learning any language, and particularly Chinese, you need to think about why you're going to learn it. For me, it was being able to talk to people in China and chat with them when I go out there and have more of that that bond with people. But for you, maybe you're interested in watching Chinese movies, traveling in China, at work, whatever. Think of a motivation and keep that in the back of your mind in those dark, dark days of going through characters or whatever it is that works for you, okay? Now, the second thing, I heard this on one of Ollie Richards' podcast. The idea is almost like minimalism in language learning. So the reason I say that is because, having been the guy that tried all the apps, this is the app you want to try, you've just got to do this thing, I found this incredible, whatever. The issue with all of that is, at some point you have to put in the work, and running around trying all these different bits and pieces is like this scattered approach where you're not really just getting your head down and doing the work, and no one can do the work for you. The apps aren't going to be these life-saving shortcuts, although I will mention some apps in a bit. You do have to put the work in. There's no, I became fluent in Chinese in 30 days. And then the last thing is the idea of comprehensible input, and that is huge. Huge, huge, huge. Look at some of Stephen Krashen's videos. So Professor Stephen Krashen is the comprehensible input guy. Comprehensible input is that if you simply just get exposed to enough of the language in a fashion you can understand, so for example, graded readers, which we'll talk about later, I'm going to reference some stuff to do with my current journey learning Spanish. So stick with me on this one. So I've started learning Spanish, been learning for a few months. I'm still at this early beginner stage. What I've thought from watching loads of Stephen Krashen's videos, and the evidence is there, that if you just expose yourself to enough of the language, I'll get fluent. The problem for me is that's just quite a lengthy process to just trust it's all going to go in. It all will do at some point, but I've found that actually doing some study alongside comprehensible input, that's the way to go. So you're learning stuff and it makes things more comprehensible, then you get more comprehensible input, and then you get this snowball effect, and you can put in flashcards and whatever else you want to do without having too much of a scattered approach and actually kind of doing nothing. So let's talk about HSK. So if you are totally new to learning Chinese, those three letters will mean absolutely nothing to you. So HSK is 汉语水平考试, which is a type of test. You might be thinking, I'm not going to do any tests in Chinese, and I have no intention to do tests in Chinese either. But if I old knifey, classic. Funnily enough, that Andy messaged me when he did, because I had these bad boys on order. I've just taken the plunge. So the HSK is going to change soon, and I've bought an online course, which I'll talk about in a minute. And I wanted to use the same online course, and therefore bought the textbooks for that course before the HSK changes. So I've got my stuff. I'm ready to HSK it. The reason why that's important is you go through, it doesn't have to be these textbooks. So my original ones, I didn't use the HSK. So this is the HSK standard course. I didn't use these textbooks originally. I actually used the New Practical Chinese Reader, which beginner's textbooks are all much of a muchness. It's beginner language. It's really useful in that you can study all the HSK words. It doesn't have to necessarily be the HSK standard course. But the magic of having these HSK guides, if you want to say, these series of characters that you can study, is that when it comes to picking up graded readers, you know, oh, I'm HSK, say you've not long gone in, you're HSK 3. Well, I know the HSK 3 characters, so I can go and pick up a book that is of HSK 3 level, and it's just going to be a short story or something like that, and you can read that for pleasure, knowing that you know the words. There's going to be some new words in there you can pick up, but broadly speaking, it will be comprehensible. It will be comprehensible input. And then you're naturally picking up grammar and vocabulary along the way whilst you just read for pleasure. And that's the ideal. But like I say, I found that just doing the textbooks, I wasn't getting too far, or just with my Spanish trying the comprehensible input way, it's sort of slow going. Whereas I know if I just actually take charge of my learning, use textbooks and comprehensible input, I find things more comprehensible, and therefore it speeds up my process, and so that's how we go. So that's why we've got the importance of HSK. Okay, so let's talk about online courses. So Andy, the Andys of the world, people wanting to learn Chinese. Online courses, I have to say, I think are maybe the way to go. I was watching some videos before doing this one thinking, oh, how do other people learn Chinese? And there's a woman who, she says she's just got through HSK 4, which is brilliant, well done. But she was basically paying someone, an online tutor, and having online lessons one-to-one with her, and they were just going through the book, which to me is quite an expensive way to get through the book. Whereas if you just buy an online course, you can still follow the particular book you want to follow, providing there's a course on that one, and there'll be grammar explanations and all this other stuff. But it's better than just the solitary years of sitting on your own, going through a textbook in silence. You know, it makes it more engaging. So I have to say, shout out to Ollie Riches. I'm doing his Spanish Uncovered course, which I've just about finished, and it's quite cool because all the vocabulary, all the things I want to learn, there's different videos and stuff, and you can have those things explained to you opposed to simply just the text. So I would recommend finding an online course. Now I have purchased, which is why I've bought all these bad boys. I was working my way through HSK 5 before the pandemic, and that sort of with various projects going on. I haven't actually done anything that looks like studying in a long time, so I'm going to get back on trying to work my way through HSK 5. And I've purchased Chinese 0 to Hero. So at the minute, I can't say if that's any good. I read some reviews online. It looked alright. It follows the HSK standard course books, and seeing as I already had this book and had done a couple of the others, I figured I would continue with that because I think they're all right. They're fine. No textbook is going to be absolutely incredible because it's a textbook. But if you get enough input, then you can go and read novels and stuff like that. And that's when you go, I've just read a book in Chinese. The first book I read in Chinese, I'd sort of blown my own mind. But I just sat down with a cup of tea and read a book for fun. But I understood it and it was all in Chinese. It's cool. It's really cool. So I would say have a search around Chinese 0 to Hero, looks pretty good. If you're interested in that course and you want to know what my review is once I start going through the course, put me something in the comments below and then maybe I can review the course and let you know what I think. But so far it looks quite good. I haven't even started it yet. Like I say, I need to get my Spanish up a little bit. In a couple of months I'm going to be back on the Chinese, and yeah, I'm really excited to see what happens with this course. That's a bit of a run through of the 汉语水平考试. But let's talk about my method, which I say my method, it's just studying. I'm not doing anything particularly fantastic, but it's basically go through a textbook, and this is the bit that is the rub for people. My attention runs between doing lots of things. I like getting stuck in projects and things. Just stick with the textbook. Just focus on that, start working your way through things and explanations, and that's why I say the online course could be, for me, I think, quite helpful for that, where it's explaining these things in a way that's more engaging than just simply reading it, because it's a bit more audio visual. You've got listening exercises, loads of stuff. There are workbooks as well with these series, so I work through some sort of workbook, and then what's key for me is then doing reading. And in Chinese we are super lucky. There are so many graded readers which are good. In Spanish I found that you buy a beginner's book, well, who decides on which are the beginner words? So I've got these different beginner books to read and learn some Spanish, but they've got different vocabulary in them. Whereas with Chinese, you can just pick up, there's loads of graded readers. I particularly like some of the Sinolingua ones. I'm going to talk about graded readers as well. On top of that, I hate flashcards. I do not like them because they are boring and I do not enjoy them. However, I also realised that the reason I could read that first book in Chinese is because I had done flashcards. Spaced repetition, I'm not going to go into it, otherwise this video is going to be insanely long, but basically something like Anki, you can create some flashcards, your own, or download someone else's, and it helps it store in your long-term memory, and the spacing gets increasingly far apart to help you remember it, opposed to doing the same words every day. So I have to say flashcards are helpful. I don't enjoy doing them, and I wouldn't recommend having a method of study which is just flashcards. I know some people do that. I know there's the AJAT methods, they're all Japanese all the time, where it's just massive input, lots and lots of sentence flashcards. It just took me too long to get through the flashcards, and then the flashcards became what my studying was, opposed to like this little extra revision thing on the side. So actually, for me, I think flashcards with just single words on, and just bang through those really quickly, they're done. And now I can go on to reading a book I like, listening to a book I like, make sure you get the audiobooks for all the books you buy, or going through the textbook if I want to learn something new, or calling my tutor and just having a chat. So I used italki to find my tutor. There are lots of different websites where you can find a tutor. I just used italki, so most of them will have a video of them talking, and you can go for someone who doesn't look boring. I found a teacher who she seemed fun in the video. Give her a call, shout out to Xiaomei. Her lessons were awesome. The only problem I will say is that we just ended up having a chat about interesting things at the time, like Brexit or whatever, and it was awesome. Brexit, if you need to know, that was really good for my conversational Chinese. So I wouldn't pay a teacher to go through a book with me. I would go through a book with an online course, which is what I'm going to do, and then just chat to a teacher. Improves your conversational stuff. Every word you don't know, you say, oh, what's that? They type it, you put it in a flashcard, happy days. Here's a cool thing, the world is full of people that speak Chinese. So if you go onto YouTube, to be frank, I don't understand a lot of the stuff he says because his Chinese is too good. But Lao Chris, I don't know what Chris's last name is, but his Chinese is insane. So just for some inspiration, check out Lao Chris. Steve Kaufman's Chinese is amazing. Chris's wife, Rita, I think Rita's channel is Chinese with Rita. She's got some good ones on pronunciation. There's a really, really sweet guy who I really like his videos, Eddie G, Chinese with Eddie G. He goes through some of these HSK textbooks, but he goes through lessons in these books in his Chinese channel. So, and he just seems to be a really nice guy. He hasn't got loads of subs, so give Eddie some subs. So another one is Mandarin Corner. She does lessons, and I've got to say, maybe I'm not really there for the lessons, but ones where she's sort of walking around areas in China or something, basically just pointing at stuff and chatting with people with subtitles. So subtitles in English and Chinese. And the best app for Chinese learners is pleco. If you're learning Chinese and you don't have pleco, what are you doing? So we've got the dictionary, look up some stuff, but then you've got clipboard, so anything you paste in your clipboard you can quickly translate. But what I use it mostly for is the graded readers. So buy a book and it's adjusted to your level, so you buy the graded reader depending on where your HSK level is, and then you can go, oh, I don't know that word, read, oh, what's that word? And then comes up, you can look at it, you can go and add that to the flashcard, you can make it say it out loud. It's awesome. And you've got like the OCR, obviously my iPad's closed at the minute, but you can see you could scan some characters and find out some stuff. Welcome to the Loft, friends. Start some sort of beginner's book, follow the HSK vocabulary, got the flashcards, online learning with the textbook, and then just for the fun you can then start getting books, and all of these have some sort of audio book. By the way, this book here I picked up in a bookshop in China. I can't yet read it, but it's a big old book of all the different types of Fujian Kung Fu. So that's my little focus. So let's do some of the graded readers. Oh, by the way, I also picked this up in a bookstop in Fuzhou, and it is a dictionary for Kung Fu with different terms in Wushu. First book I ever read in Chinese, cover to cover, was this. Read it a while back. It's good. Mandarin Companion, Sherlock Holmes and the Case of the Curly-Haired Company. I mean, some of these are a bit cheesy, but you've only got a certain amount of vocabulary. You have to accept it's not going to be War and Peace. Hasn't got pinyin between the lines here, and try not to rely on pinyin, so it's the way characters are spoken, I guess you would say. Don't use it as a crutch, because then it's difficult to wean yourself off it. Characters from day one, that is the way to go. I wasted so many years not doing that, thinking, I'm only going to use spoken Chinese, I don't need the characters. Trust me, you need the characters, because if you can only listen to spoken Chinese and there's so many homophones, so many words that sound exactly the same, if you get more input, you get more results. Input means reading, reading means characters. That's how it goes. So yeah, so the Mandarin Companion series, there's loads of different ones. That's Journey to the Centre of the Earth. Great Expectations, that was cool. I really rate the Mandarin Companion series. I think they're really cool. I really like them. Now this is a series that I really like. This is a whole series by Jeff Pepper and Xiaohui Wang, and it covers the journey to the West, the story of Monkey, or the Monkey King. Funnily enough, I keep this in plastic because I don't want it to go funny. This was my grandpa's copy of Monkey this is from one of the early translations from 1942. Yeah, but she's a bit old and falling apart, but that's really cool. Monkey by Wu Chun An. So the Monkey series by Jeff Pepper, I really enjoyed that. But friends, but I don't know where they all are, but just as an example, these are the ones I prefer. So this is who's done this? Sinolingua has done a series of graded readers. They do 500, 1,000, 1,500, got 2,000 downstairs, all following the HSK vocabulary lists plus some extra stuff. The books are all short stories from an original Chinese author, so it's not like you've got some baby story that you're trying to read as an adult and you feel like, I don't really care about Peppa Pig or whatever else. These are actual stories that I found them really enjoyable. So I would, if I was going to go for anything, I'd go for these bad boys. All of these ones are on pleco. So if you are not quite at the level where you're comfortable picking up the book and reading it, if you get it on pleco, then the characters you don't know, you can just touch, find out what they are, keep reading, nice and easy. And then from, I think this is also from Sinolingua, yeah. Then you can get into proper books like The Besieged City, which is just a really cool story. All of them have audio for them. In fact, if you go onto the Sinolingua website, you can even get the audio for these books without having to buy the book, if you so desire. So, and then I would just, whenever I'm going about my day, put some Chinese on. It's comprehensible input because it's stuff I can understand. If you just put the radio on, you're not going to understand it, you're not going to get anything from it. But if you put comprehensible input on, so books you can understand, but still some characters you're not quite sure of, that's the way to go. That's what I would do, and I highly recommend it. And another thing about learning Chinese is you get to learn about Chinese culture, which is amazing. So if you like Chinese martial arts, obviously do me a favour and hit subscribe. There's a guy called No if you like hip hop, got some cracking tracks. I'm far too old to be listening to him, but he's also awesome. Punk music, there's a band called Brain Failure who got some awesome songs as well. And if you want to know more about the origins of Chinese martial arts, then here's a video you might find interesting. Thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next one.